Hello and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About It with my guest today, Miss Katherine White. Hello, Katherine. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ferrell. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just want to let you guys know, Kathy is the author of the book, Little Girls and Their Ponytails. This is a fantastic read. You guys might want to make sure you get this for your little girls. The book is basically talking about and building self-esteem for little girls. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's self-enhancement of the image of little girls. A lot of little girls have low self-esteem, so I just want to enhance their self-esteem by reminding them that they are beautifully and wonderfully made.
All right, all right. Now, whenever you see a project, you always, for me personally, I always wonder what inspired the creator to do a project like this. So I'd like to know what actually inspired you to do this book.
Very interesting. The shower. I was in the shower.
Okay.
And I walked out of the shower, had a towel on my head, and I was reminded of being a little girl with a towel on my head trying to change my hair. I wanted longer hair just because society says longer hair looks good. And as you can see now, I have braids, and sometimes I might have a weave, and that's okay. I want the little girls to know before they enhance or take away or add anything that they are beautiful and that they're wonderful just the way they are.
Wow. And I think that's so important because so often I know, especially African American little girls,
Right.
I've always seen them emulate another race
Right.
by tying a towel on their head and throwing it back and forth.
Right.
You know, this.
Or a jacket, like in the book, the little girls put a jacket on their heads. And
Right.
it's the teacher sees it, and she's sad because they have jackets on their heads because they feel prettier with jackets. And that's the weirdest thing ever. But it's funny, it's cute, but it's also sad. So I want to bring awareness to these little girls and the sad part about it. But we don't have to stay sad for long because we're going to encourage them and empower them to love who they are.
Through the book.
Through this book.
Little Girls and Their Ponytails.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that you're actually bringing light to this subject because I think it's still important in even today's society. I've seen it back in my generation, and it's continued. It's been a perpetual thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think so much as it relates to self-esteem needs to come from the home.
Absolutely.
And I think parents need to teach their little girls to love themselves as they are. If you have kinky hair, love your kinky hair. Who made your hair kinky?
God. God made your
and
hair
if God
just the way
made
it is.
there you go. And what God has made was perfect.
Absolutely.
So if we can instill those types of values in the little girls today, it's going to make a huge difference. And it also makes a difference in how they go out into the world.
Right, right.
And how they see themselves. Now, when you penned the book, were there little girls that you had witnessed yourself?
Absolutely. I have the privilege to serve hundreds of children throughout the year, whether it's in schools, volunteering, or at my church. I'm also the director of children's ministry, so I do a lot with children as it relates to girls and boys. And I see girls with little bitty ponytails and long ponytails or just not enough hair to make a ponytail. And I had one specific little girl who came to church with an afro. And the kids were bullying her at church. And it made me so sad. So
at church?
At church. So it made me sad, just like it made the teacher in the book sad and the mother in Little Girls in Their Ponytails sad. So children like that and girls like that, it inspired me to write this book so that they know that they're beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
To embrace that.
Absolutely, to embrace that. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when I see kids that are bullied, oftentimes there's a root.
Right.
Kids don't just go to school and be bullies.
Right.
Most of the time, the root of that started somewhere in the home.
Right.
With the adults, with the parents that they actually live with. And I think it's important that it's important that we continue to instill good values in our kids because a lot of times the problem starts with the adults.
Right.
And a lot of times I've actually seen parents, mothers, perm little bitty girls' hair. I mean, like before they should ever even have perm in their hair.
That bothers me.
And then they're putting the ponytails in. Then by the time the little kid gets 5 years old, she's got the what is it when your hair goes backwards? Your edges. They call it edges.
It's broken out.
The edges are broken out because these parents have used poor judgment.
Right.
And the reason they use poor judgment is because they're trying to make that kid look like the other little kids
Right.
to build their self-esteem, but in fact, you end up tearing it down because you're making a mess out of your kid's head.
Right, right. Well, I just to add to that, I think it takes the parents at home. Sometimes you have to realize, and I deal with a lot of children, every child doesn't have a parent, a two-parent home, or even a single-parent home. They live with grandma, or they live with auntie, or they live with uncle, and with their uncle. So what we have to understand is that it's our responsibility as a community to build these children's self-esteem and enhance their self-image. So it's parent or grandma or grandpa and the community and your church and your school and the teachers. So it's all of our responsibility to enhance their self-image.
Okay. Now I like to talk about various issues on the show, needless to say.
Okay.
And I don't want to just talk about the issue, but I also want to have some solutions
Sure.
when we talk about the issue. So
Sure.
what is one of the solutions that you think could go forward in helping build self-esteem?
Well, one thing that I think, words are so powerful, which is why I write, and which is why I write things that are inspirational. And my foundation, and no offense to anyone, but my foundation is God. So I build everything that I do on that foundation. Words are powerful. So that's the first place to start, is to speak positive words. Affirm these children. Let them know that they're beautiful. Let them know that they are powerful. Let them know that they are strong. Let them know that they are more than.
Right.
Not less than, more than. And that's with girls and boys. This book, Little Girls in Their Ponytails, is for girls specifically, but for girls and boys, let them know. Speak those positive words to them. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are handsome. You are amazing. All of those things.
Absolutely.
That helps. That starts there.
Absolutely. What a wonderful answer that was.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to give you a brief little, I'm going to create a scenario for you.
Okay.
All right. If you have a little girl, and she's born with bright red hair. Beautiful little girl, bright red hair. None of the kids that she goes to school with has this bright red hair, so she sticks out automatically.
Right.
What would you say to that little girl to keep her self-esteem up? Because naturally when she goes to school, people are going to notice her and say little remarks as kids.
Right.
What would you say to your child?
Well, first of all, I think I'm already picturing this little girl as being the most beautiful little girl in the classroom. But I would say to her, love your red hair. God made you unique, and he made your hair red because he wanted your hair red. And embrace that. Embrace that red hair and just go in there and be beautiful all the time. Be beautiful. Be who you are from the inside to your red hair on the outside.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it's so important that we continue to instill that type of value in our kids. Absolutely. Because it affects how they go out into the world.
Right.
You know? And when she goes out into the world feeling great about herself, then no matter what nobody says, she knows that she's beautiful. She knows that she's unique. And you know what, too? A lot of times, and as a kid, we don't always get it.
Sure.
We don't always get it. But when we become adults, we see things differently.
Very true.
And you know your uniqueness when you become an adult. You start to realize, wow, I got red. I'm rocking this red hair, and it's my natural red hair.
Exactly.
That makes me different than everybody else. And I say this often. It's easy to blend in, but it's very courageous to stand out.
Very true.
You know? And I actually put this on my not YouTube, but my Facebook blog yesterday. If you were to, anybody can be ordinary. But why be ordinary when you have the opportunity to be extraordinary?
Very good.
And when you're born like that with red hair, that's an extraordinary kid.
Right.
Now, if you can imagine a sea of blackness, all you see is black, and you see this one dot of red in the sea of blackness, what are you going to pay attention to?
The red.
The red, because the red stands out and it's noticed. So there's nothing wrong with standing out and being noticed. I think it's great when we can accept the fact that we are different.
Right.
You know?
That's so true. Acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance. And acceptance of one's self.
Right.
I think is very important. Now, I saw this little girl one day, and she had just kinky hair. I mean, just kinky hair.
Kind of like mine.
Like yours. No. But she had kinky hair, that we oftentimes see.
Right.
And I could see that she felt jealousy of another little girl who had what we oftentimes call
good hair.
Good hair. And my heart really went out to the little girl.
Right.
But I also know that the parent has to be the foundation to make the difference, to say, baby, you all right.
Right.
You are beautiful with your kinky hair.
Right.
You know, and you don't have to run out and get the first perm box and slap it on the baby's head.
Right. And I think it's okay if I may answer or talk about that.
Absolutely.
Just like the little girl at church. She came to church with an afro. Her mother saw enough in her to say, "You're beautiful. You're going to church with your afro." And I saw enough in her to say, "You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I love your hair." You know, she comes all the time with her hair in puffs and afro, and I love it just because she's embracing who she is. So it all goes back to mom telling her she's beautiful,
absolutely,
and teacher telling her she's beautiful, and church leader telling her she's beautiful. And even if you see a little girl in the street, at the mall or at the park, just tell her she is beautiful. Tell her you look great, or cute little dress or whatever it is that you think is beautiful. Tell her. It can make a world of a difference in her life.
And it's great because it actually builds their self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And I personally feel, especially coming from a photography background, there's always something about somebody that makes them unique.
Very true.
And finding that thing about that person, be it their eyes, their lips, their skin tone, their nose, and complimenting that feature. If you see a little girl with pretty, you have beautiful eyes, you have the most beautiful eyes. And that's free.
That's free.
That's something that anybody can say and anybody can give.
Right.
And in the process, you're doing what? You're building what?
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem. And you're also building a better world.
Very true. I believe that if we empower our children now, set the foundation now, when they become adults, they'll be better. They will be more productive and just ready for the world. Ready for the world if we prepare them now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what else too? When we talk about hair, what your book is really about, about hair, so many other things are spilled off from just the hair.
Right.
And how kids feel about themselves. Oftentimes skin color comes into play.
Right.
If it's I'm black, I'm too light, no matter what, somebody got something to say.
Right. Or I'm too pale. If you're a Caucasian child, you're too pale.
Exactly. So it's across the gamut.
Right.
It's across the gamut. But the bottom line and the foundation is good parenting skills at the home.
Right.
To create self-esteem in your child.
Right.
No matter whether they jet black.
Right.
Whether they
Which is
pale as
well.
the moonlight.
Right.
Whether they're bald-headed. Whether they have kinky hair. Whatever it is. We have to teach our kids to love themselves as they are.
Absolutely. And community involvement as well.
Community involvement.
That's where I come in, teachers come in, and churches come in, and organizations come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So tell me this. Now, how do people find out a little bit more about you and what you're doing?
Well, you can contact me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Sunny Smiles on Facebook, and then my email address is sunnysmilesky@gmail.com.
That's Sunny Smiles KY@gmail.com.
Kwhite KWHITE@gmail.com.
Okay, and they can find out a lot more about your book.
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you also doing speaking engagements and things like that as well?
I am. I've actually was a judge in a little girl's pageant a couple of weeks ago, and I have speaking engagements available all the time throughout the year with schools and organizations that are geared toward empowering little girls.
That is fantastic.
And teens as well.
And teens as well, okay.
To speak with teens. You'd be surprised, this book is for elementary age, but it's really starting to filter over into teens and even women to let them know and remind them that they are beautiful and wonderful.
Wow. And you know what, too? It's very user-friendly. The book is very user-friendly. So any kid can pick it up, read it, and actually be blessed by it. All right. Now, for more information on Katherine White and her project, you can certainly email us at letstalkaboutit12tv.com. That's letstalkaboutit12tv.com. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about it 12tv@gmail.com. I should know that. Let's talk about it 12tv@gmail.com. Until next time, we'll see you then.